Good morning, folks. It looks like we've got some new information on Cyberpunk 2077. A new demo has been released to the Polish media, and someone was brave enough to translate all that information into a NeoGAF post. Let's go through it. This is really cool stuff. So, we can start a conversation with an NPC without leaving our bike or car. It works like a classic dynamic conversation. Sounds like you just press a button and off you go, talking to some sort of mobile conversation. Some merchants will offer unique items and discounts only for a specified period of time or specific times. Okay, so maybe a random item generator in stores. Sounds cool. You can buy various clothing like long jackets, sneakers, and t-shirts. Example of programs that a netrunner can buy: a program to disable cybernetic eyes or another to block a cybernetic member. I'm assuming that's an actual component of a body, not a character. As you advance your hacking skills, the options will expand from a simple door opening to controlling cameras or turrets and more. Okay, not sure exactly how that relates to controlling cameras. I doubt they have as sophisticated stealth system as, let's say, Deus Ex Human Revolution, where turning on cameras or off cameras as well as turrets was very specific to that style of gameplay. Minigames related to hacking will be different depending on the installation you hack. And we saw a bit of the engineering skill, I believe, in that warehouse where V actually hacks into this console of sorts and starts moving wires around. Bots can also hack at a distance. Cool. Increases are performed only from a specialist, but minor changes will be possible by ourselves, such as improving our Mantis Blade by adding poison. Okay, so you have to go to a trainer of some sort in order to increase your skills. You can increase your skills by finding a trainer or by installing certain implants. Right. The scarcity of objects corresponds to its availability rate in stores. The more rare an object is, the more street cred will it take for a seller to offer it to us. Okay, so street cred is going to be like sort of the thing that you use as a form of social currency in order for doorways to open up for you, including buying stuff. Street cred will also increase the quality of buyable components for crafting. Right, so the more street cred you have, the better options you have at the store. They have changed the way to show the damage compared to the 2018 demo and tried several methods to indicate the damage taken by the opponent without flooding the screen with numbers. The numbers are still there, but in smaller quantities, like adding special animations. Okay, cool. The inventory will be limited according to the weight that can be transported, so I'm assuming that's based on your stats. When V uses a glass bottle to shatter it on the skull of an opponent, which I'm assuming is during conversation, I'm thinking immediately of the vodka scene in Alpha Protocol. This results in a bloody visual effect, and the shard of the bottle is still usable for impaling it in the body of an opponent. So it sounds as if you go from the conversation experience of doing an interrupt, and then you now have the actual object of a broken bottle in your hand to use in combat melee or in gameplay combat. Very cool. Example of interactive discussion between V and Placide in the demo. During the conversation, a henchman enters the room with a message. If V looks at this character, new dialogue options appear to interact with him that, according to the devs, will have an impact on the conversation with Placid if used. Okay, that's a lot of dynamic things to be happening. So imagine you're having a conversation with one fellow, another fellow enters the conversation, and if you choose to look at them, you then have dynamic conversation options with them. That sounds rather confusing and complex for someone to create a dynamic conversation system and then throw in another dialogue tree on top of that. That's a bit of overkill, I would say, if you're talking about having scenes in a movie or even in a book. You have like all these actors popping in and saying stuff, but in a video game, you can now go in a totally different route with a totally different character. That sounds confusing to me, but wow. When Placide forces V to connect to the network to be monitored during his mission, an interruption is possible if we have street kid, because only a kid or a child of the street knows that way gangs work. So this is possibly related to the life path choice, where the entire game will be a different experience, or one of 3 different experiences. Interesting. More details about the boss fight with Sasquatch. The fight takes place in a small room with interactive objects. I believe that was the scene in the factory where there's a big armored guy. The boss can use these items to prevent us from reaching his back. It is possible to avoid the fight. So then sounds like an extremely detailed, complex boss fight on the likes of, let's say, a Metal Gear Solid 3 or a Deus Ex Human Revolution style thing. So there's all these objects within the room, and the boss can use those to his advantage, and perhaps you can as well. That's, again, this is a lot of detail and a lot of work being put into every nuance of the game, whether it's the boss fights, whether it's dialogue, whether it's combat. There's just so much stuff going on so far. I'm surprised this game is coming out next year, or at all. I mean, if all these mechanics are just constantly being added. Each attribute skill goes up to level 10. Okay. There are 60 perks too, so 5 per skill, which implies 12 skills. And each perk has 5 levels of progression. Right, okay. Makes sense. You can combine skills with doping products like the slow motion effect during a hacking to have more time. Wow. So you're doing drugs while you're hacking, or you have some sort of injection while you're hacking to slow down time. This was used during a fight against animals in order to save time to hack him. Okay. Cool. That's good. I mean, mechanics are working on top of each other. Very cool. In the demo, V is level 18 with the street cred level 12. Brigitte is level 45. It was the highest level NPC in the demo. Cool. If you take a driver out of his car to rob him, I guess it's like GTA, and there's a gang or the police around, a violence response will be felt. Oh, nice. Jeez. When you want to pause the main quest, there will be a lot of side quests available. I don't think they mean literally pause the game, but I mean go off and do whatever you want. On top of that, there will be many events happening across the city, and how to interfere with it can lead to a quest. All right. That doesn't seem too outside of the norm for open world games. You go off the beaten path, and then you find some random event, and that leads to a quest. Seems pretty normal. In addition to that, Night City brings together many activities. Unlike The Witcher 3, there will not be a classic quest table to tell us what to do when doing it. However, optical improvements will make it possible to simulate through the augmented reality the highlighting of certain points in the environment. I'm not sure what that implies, because naturally you'd probably have a map indicator telling you where to go, and if you have a certain cybernetic advancement, you can be able to see through walls or something, and that will highlight where to go. Very similar to Deus Ex, where you have the highlighting of certain objects. That was actually a feature that fans wanted turned off because they wanted the game to appear normally, as opposed to having everything seen with your cybernetic eyes. Brain dance is an important part of simulating someone's memories. Brain dance. It sounds like a skill, but it could be a story-related topic. Who knows? Everyone will not be increased in the same way. The richest will have increases that only they can have. Others will not want improvement by religious conviction. The idea is not to create a homogeneous but very different population. Okay, I'm not sure what all that implies, but it sounds like you'll have stats or statuses based off certain qualities, like having a religious value, having a certain financial value, having a street cred value. Your level, I'm sure, impacts things. So increases to your stats or character will occur in a variety of ways. That's interesting. I'm not sure how they can quantify that entirely, but very interested in the religious conviction aspect. Cyber Psychos is present in the game. A Psychos. I'd have to check that out. What is Psychos? Cyber psychosis. Oh, okay. A mental illness caused by an overload of cybernetic augmentations to the body. Gotcha. Our character cannot reach it, but through quests or scripted events, we can see the damage to the improvements on the psyche. our character could not reach cyberpsychosis. Maybe they meant in their playthrough, their character cannot reach it. So that would be cool if you could actually have you become too mechanical. Losing the sense of identity as a person. Okay, so it's not like a rejection of your implants like in Deus Ex, or that was a story theme rather. It is the removal of humanity, the lack of personality, of humanization. You're losing yourself because you're becoming more machine. That seemed to be one of the characters in the demo that we saw from 2018 of that machine cult or whatever, the people that were in the warehouse or the factory, whatever exactly that place was, that they all had these implants in their bodies. Their whole entire eyeballs were removed. They were just almost purely cybernetic. That would be interesting from a storytelling perspective. I'm just not sure how that would be part of the main story. Whether or not every player would be forced to have to get implants, and then that would be a plot point. Interesting. I don't know how that would work exactly. So kind of cool, but definitely part of the narrative. So cool to see. Religions are still very present in Night City. Our vision of cyberpunk is not to describe an alternative world or an alternate world, but a continuity of our world. Some things will look like our current reality. For example, Christianity is present, and we'll even have a faction, the Christianity faction, or at least a faction that believes in Christianity. Very cool. We want to see all kinds of social structures throughout the story, throughout the game. Whether it has specific gameplay elements is not too important, but the fact that you're dealing with factions in general and based off religion or have religion as a component is cool. The journalist says that the presence of religion is likely to create a scandal, which CD Projekt Red responded with, "We will not avoid any subject, even if they may offend the sensitivity of some. We are not here to say whether it is good or bad." Awesome. That is exactly what you want to hear from an author. We want to do whatever we want. We're free to say whatever we want. We don't care. We're not here to preach, etc., etc. So interesting how the presence of religion is likely to create a scandal. That is probably a series of side quests, not part of the main quest. But you might get a status as a result of that, or get a perk based off your belief. You can choose to believe in something or not. Very cool. This is all cool stuff. With Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red has also exacerbated community membership as a way for people to protect themselves from danger and poverty. So if you're part of a faction or part of a community, some can feel protected and some can feel being put in danger. And of course, depending on your poverty level or how much money you have. Interesting. Being part of a church, you feel protected. They help you out, give you a place to sleep. If you're hurt, they can patch you up maybe, depending on what community membership you've got. Sounds about right. The type of your character will be at your convenience. You will not necessarily choose strictly a man or a woman. One can have a male body with feminine attributes, a feminine voice, and feminine hair. The type of voice will impact how NPCs will perceive us. Okay. So that's interesting, because then you'll have certain elements saying, hey, you look really attractive, and then they realize you're a guy, or they don't care about any of that, but they only care about one aspect, like your voice. Very interesting stuff. That is, it's kind of strange, but we're talking about a society where everyone's just customizing their bodies and having male or female components or even voices. Sounds pretty cool. This is just awesome stuff. Lots of information, lots of crazy details. I would say this is an over-the-top game with so many components. It's hard to grasp how this is all going to come together. But wow, cool stuff, guys. Stay tuned for more. I'm sure we're going to get all kinds of information over the months. But thanks for listening, and have yourself a great day.